So you've got a kind of complicated cash flow. It takes somebody 5 days a week to do your cash flow report, and then you can plan, and you can kind of chase kind of debtors, or do some kind of strategic optimization. Now, if with data we automate that process, we've not just saved 5 days. I can now run that daily.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm now running that daily. So we're talking about 25 times 5 days worth of work.
Yeah,
but actually, now I've improved my credit control. I've saved myself money.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Borders. I'm your host, Andrew Fahey. And in this podcast, we talk exclusively about the exciting challenges of taking your business globally. And we do that by inviting the best minds from their respective fields to just talk to us. And sometimes it's people who have led their own businesses and expanded globally, and we can learn from their amazing stories. Sometimes it's people who've just got great experiences that we might be able to learn from and bring into our own lives. And other times it's people that offer a service to us as global business leaders that we might be able to take advantage of. And today we're going to focus on the subject of data and analytical tools, and more specifically try and answer the question, does the use of data and analytical tools remove the mythical quest for one system that we need to run all our global businesses? And to do that, we've got a very special guest. Can I introduce you to Brian Millrine from Fourth Revolution Analytics?
Great to be here, Andrew. Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be with you again and talking about this subject.
Yeah, no, it'll be a great conversation today. So quite a complicated conversation. So we're going to try and make sure for the layman in the room, we sort of bring people along the journey. So just a nice, easy question to start. Just tell people about yourself, your career, your experiences, how you ended up sat here today.
Okay, I started life as a corporate financier, and that's when I got introduced to kind of Brookson. So Brookson was my first transaction where they were kind of buying out their partners, and that was way back in 2001. Okay, then it kind of moved forward, kind of 4 years, still working corporate finance. Brookson had done an amazing job of kind of growing the business, highly successful, very high growth. They came to sell the business to a private equity firm. I was advising on that. We spent a year kind of working on that deal. At the end of that deal, the shareholders decided they didn't want to go ahead. So there was a year's worth of
occupational hazard.
Yeah, an occupational hazard. So the deal wasn't going ahead. But you know what? I was so inspired by what was going on at Brookson, the people there, that I actually approached them and said, "Listen, I want to come and join your business. I want to move out of corporate finance. I enjoyed doing the advice, but I really wanted to be part of something and build something." So I had a great relationship with the shareholders, and they kind of found a role for me. I was coming into the business to make sure that when they kind of went to kind of sell again, it was in the correct shape strategically. So I came in as a strategic director to make sure we had a strategy, kind of maximizing profit, all that good stuff. So I'd say arguably a bit of a vanity role, a bit of an unusual role, but they could afford it because it was just such a kind of high growth, successful kind of business. But then 3 months after me joining, the world got turned on its head. Kind of legislation came in that fundamentally changed the business model. So we had to kind of move from a very predictable payroll model to suddenly we had kind of contractors working through their own limited companies that all were working independently and behaving in a different way. So we recognized that actually the solution for that, data was at the heart of that. We had to get bank feeds in from all their kind of bank accounts in order to see what was going on, in order to do the accounting. So we effectively got links to the banks and did open banking. And this is in 2006. Kind of years before open banking came out, we had those feeds. So we knew that data was key to get in and be the kind of lifeblood of us being able to provide a profitable and systemized service.
Really, so full disclosure, Brian and I worked together for this 15, 16, 17 year period as well. So I guess the really interesting part of this story is a corporate finance background. And we'll touch on that in a second, because I think there's some really interesting skills that you brought during that, though, to crisis survival mode. You actually pivoted your career based on the need of a business. So from corporate finance, you became a technologist through that period in time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was when my role changed to solving problems, redesigning processes, and the accountancy and the corporate finance a background was kind of helpful. But this was new, so I became more kind of operational focused. I moved into an ops role. It was no longer thinking about corporate finance and selling the business. That was going to weigh in the future. We had to kind of reinvent the kind of the business model. And then what was kind of really exciting is once we'd kind of been through this this change, we knew that technology was going to be the answer to be able to kind of deal with the variability, and I was given a lot of scope to be creative. So during the period, it was I kind of designed an accountancy kind of website in order to be able to deliver the service. So that was us moving away from payslips onto the web. And that win gave the shareholders more confidence to I guess, give me more rope to go and be creative. Yeah. And then and it was fantastic to have very entrepreneurial shareholders that, despite going through the trauma of reinventing the business and a real change in terms of the profitability of the business, that was a clear kind of impact. They wanted to invest. They wanted to get back on top. They wanted to, be the market leader and deliver, customer experience. It was always, this is all about customer experience. And then in 2009, the iPhone started to come out. And I remember kind of going and speaking to Carolyn, the kind of a shareholder at the time. I said, listen, this iPhone thing is going to be massive. Okay, we need to do the iPhone thing for our industry. And what that meant was, the kind of the app type approach where, we've got, you go on, it's not just a website now, it's a portal. I've got my invoicing app. I've got my expenses app. I've got my kind of banking app. And you know what? They were just, let's go and do that. So given funding to go away and reinvent the kind of the technology solution for, kind of our industry. And that's, you see, now I'm transitioning away from kind of operations into kind of the IT. Yeah. And so this is the start of my CIO journey.
And I think the interesting point there for business leaders and maybe even technology leaders to think about this, and Brian might be too sort of respectful of his own experiences to talk about this, but your background in corporate finance, even though you said we were not thinking about an exit for a period of time, everything you built had that lens of one day we're going to have to demonstrate how we drive shareholder value. And I don't think people from a traditional technology and software engineering background think like that because of the background you came from. As we rebuilt everything, it was actually building it with this one day has to sit in an IM and has to generate value. And I think that must give you a different insight to maybe traditional people in your job.
I always think like that. So, kind of part of that technology solution was, market leader. Okay. And also actually, if we go and we become more of a tech business, then we're going to get a bigger multiple. Actually, if people are coming onto our portal, that's more engagement. It's more touch points. That goes to value. Better service, lower churn. Yeah. Better service, we can go out and sell it. So I've absolutely, that's always been at the heart of it. And I've got a passion for the new things going on because, and a lot of that is, seeing the kind of the value creation and kind of the up-and-coming company. So absolutely, it's giving me a different perspective. So, that was then my kind of journey to starting to become the kind of CIO. And I was just so kind of proud of the kind of application and what we did. It was kind of cool and it was exciting. And the shareholders, to get that in your career where the shareholders just allow you to be that kind of creative. And then, so that was kind of 2009, being a CIO, kind of building that kind of technology. And then, as you said, what was fantastic is private equity came along in 2014. What kind of sold the business, what got them excited? Well, technology at the heart of it. Yeah. And we actually kind of, talking to kind of private equity kind of, all these years on, one of their moments where they thought, we need to invest in this business was when we talked about those bank feeds,
the way that we could demonstrate how we use data to not only drive efficiencies, but provide better insights into the business was very sort of different for professional services businesses back then. And so we've got Brian, who started in corporate finance, who actually sort of jumped into a portfolio company because he believed in it. A regulatory event happened, which pivoted the business model. And through that, you transitioned to a sort of CIO role, first sort of application development. We then exited the business. And I think this is really the interesting part that ties us to the question today. Yeah. So post private equity, and this is where it segues into the international expansion, we then started to buy businesses. We then started to look to see if we can take this business model overseas. And that's where I really saw your passion for data and analytics to really start to come from. About this isn't just now about the application. This is about creating a network of different businesses and processes. Yeah. So I think, you're right. 2014, we've done the private equity deal. This was the start of the data journey. And, just kind of as part of kind of the exit, as part of that, getting private equity involved, I had started to understand, where the power of data might be. So, what we had is two data analysts and kind of Brookson was a very transactional business. So I had two kind of data developers who were doing SQL, writing SQL, delivering it in Excel and giving it to the business. So that was my first penny drop moment to say, well, I think we can automate away some of this process. They keep on building these reports, we give them out. The business was, there wasn't visibility across departments. So it was a beautiful swan-like experience when you went online and you used the portal, but underneath there was a separate invoicing department, there was a separate expense department. They all had kind of different systems. So again, it was a system of systems. There was, accounting systems, payroll, kind of invoicing, financial services, and actually, it was quite siloed. Mm-hmm. So what you had is, people would raise kind of emails or tickets saying, what's going on in this system for this individual. So it was actually, a very inefficient, very siloed, and that really. One, it was expensive, but it stopped, delivering the right kind of customer experience. So I could start to see, how, through data, I could start to get rid of the silos, kind of join it up. And we'd just done the deal. And I remember kind of Martin, the CEO, sitting me down and saying, do you know what, in the presentation, you talked about data, and we're good with all the applications, the data stuff. I felt that maybe, we talked about it, but we need to get a lot better, so, and I said, okay, so how do I do that? So, I phoned up a consultancy in London and I said, listen, we're going to become great at data. Please, can you come and help us? Mm-hmm. At which point they said, no, you've got the wrong number. We only deal with merchant banks. So I said, oh no, come on, come up to Warrington, leave the city and come to kind of Warrington and listen to our story and what we're about. So they came up and we started to do an engagement to kind of work out the how we were going to solve this. So we did a supply and demand exercise, and we found out that yes, there's a massive opportunity for data in the business, but we'd have to go from, in the traditional approach that we were doing now, we'd have to go from 2 data analysts to 30 data analysts. Okay, that's not feasible. Yeah. So what we what we started with is a kind of citizen orientated strategy, and we started to use the new technologies. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of 2014. So this is all kind of really new. But what we did is we got the kind of the latest technology at the time that was, no code a technology where we could actually, rather than take on lots of kind of data experts, we could give the people in the business, the knowledge workers, we could give them the tools in order to start to be data experts ourselves. And I think this is probably more understood now, but back in 2014, it's like, this is, this is. Really, I remember
really,
a catchphrase you used, which, originally my background software engineering way back when, it sort of strikes a little bit of fear into me, that you used to say the future of the system is no system at all.
Yeah, I think what I kind of talked about there is even though I was kind of really kind of proud of kind of the application that we'd built, and at the end of the day, does anybody want to go onto a portal to raise invoices and do expenses? No, no, they don't. However proud I am of how beautiful I've made that, it's not really what people want. And I think with kind of the data now and kind of APIs and kind of pulling in information from all over. If you have all those inputs and then you have data driving it, you can be proactive. So, if I need to go onto a portal to see, the performance of my kind of business, I want to go and check that every day to make sure things are okay. Well, with data and everything joined up, we can spot when there's a problem and be proactive. So, and then if we can call you, when there is an issue, you don't need to go onto the portal. So, the future is actually allowing people to not be involved in accountancy, not be involved, get on with what they're doing, delivering their service. So I still kind of believe that today. The future app is no app.
Yeah, that was it. The future app is no app. So, I think everybody who are listening to this now will just say that that's a very unique and amazing journey, and a lot of stress and a lot of pressure through that as well. And actually, as diamonds are formed, what popped out of that was a really exciting, a really sexy technology strategy, which probably accelerated that professional services business forward. So, sort of flipping this into sort of a more of an advisory type thing now. So it sounds, the question that we're trying to focus on is, the future app is no app, or we don't need to go for the mythical quest of finding one global CRM or one global ERP system, which anybody that runs businesses in multiple locations, whether that be in one country, in multiple countries, has obviously faced that question. That sounds really complicated. Just try and break. How would one start implementing a data and analytics strategy? Where would you begin?
Yeah. Okay. So, and we'll probably kind of come back to this later because we've touched on it. But the thing to kind of realize is you don't need to, and a lot of businesses can't afford this. You don't need a dedicated team of kind of data experts to come in. Certainly if you're starting off, you can get the technology out there to your knowledge workers and train them up. So that is incredibly powerful to say, so this is doable. Kind of think about that. You've got the stars in the business that, break down walls, the hacker mentality, they get things done. If you give people, some initial kind of training and the right tools, they can do great things with data.
So, and this no code concept, just explain that a little bit more detail. So the tool that you're talking about removes the need to have a qualified software engineer producing really insightful data. So just give a little bit of an overview.
Yeah. So if you look at, what the data process is, it's, taking information out of a system, getting information from another system, joining it, maybe adding some calculations to it, kind of renaming things, almost kind of pivoting data to kind of get results. So, if you and that's what a developer will do, when they're writing in SQL in the traditional way, they'll kind of blend data, to create those data sets. But really, you've got that going on in your business. Yeah. You're doing it in Excel. So there's all that kind of process is going on. And just, so there was the greatest citizen tool, there was arguably Excel when it came out. But now, but we're still using that, all these years on, but there's now these new tools coming out that are as powerful as Excel was back then. So, and I think of it because I remember back then when I started my kind of auditor journey, we were writing things on ledgers and then PSCs came out and we all started using Excel. I mean, that was a seismic move. We're at that stage again now where you've got tools that are as big a jump beyond kind of Excel, and the critical thing is it's you and me, anybody can use them. It's familiar because, people are doing it in Excel. They're kind of pivoting. They're doing VLOOKUPs, all those things. But if you build it using the new technology, you build it once, you press a button, and it runs. So
if we turn this into a real life example, just to make sure I'm understanding where we're going with this. So, and this is a real example that I've had, and I think you've probably supported with, where we have And we're a global leadership team. We have entities all over the world, and we want to analyze our workforce. Yeah. And the problem with that is that the details are kept in a plethora of HR systems in each country. And that might be different again if we're dealing with employed workers or if we're dealing with self-employed workers, because they might actually be in the accounting system rather than the HR system. This is the scenario we're talking about, isn't it? Though, rather than try to have a complicated workday type solution, which brings all those together, an individual from your organization with no software development expertise can take all of that data, bring it together and analyze it to provide us as leaders a view of the workforce in that scenario. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, just I guess what we're touching on here, but what's quite kind of interesting in that scenario, you're talking about something that probably people don't think of is data. So let's maybe ask the kind of question, kind of what is data, kind of first. And people think data. Well, okay, I'm going to get visualizations. This is somebody to give me charts and visualizations, and it's so much more than that. So it's not just about visualizations and insights. And certainly in my experience and kind of philosophy, there was a lot about analytic process automation. Okay, so it's not, and let's then talk about analytic process automation. So what is that? It's what you're touching on there. It's the kind of fabric joining up different systems. It's the fabric that's automating away your Excel-based process. Yeah. And then kind of back to my kind of corporate finance thinking and the way that you kind of touched on earlier. I see there's 3 levels. Okay, and from a value perspective. So kind of level 1 is what we can do is we can start to kind of automate away kind of Excel-based process. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to save, somebody, kind of 5 days a month, and it's taken me a day to build the workflow that does that. Okay, that's great. We're saving time, and that shouldn't be underestimated because there'll be hundreds of these use cases within a business. But then there's kind of level 2. Okay, so level 2 value is not just saving time, it's using data to be able to do something you couldn't do before. Yeah. So the example here is cash flow. So you've got a kind of complicated cash flow. It takes somebody 5 days a week to do your cash flow report, and then you can plan and you can kind of chase kind of debtors or do some kind of strategic optimization. Now, if with data we automate that process, we've not just saved 5 days. I can now run that daily. Yeah. So actually, I'm now running that daily. So we're talking about 25 times 5 days worth of work, but actually now I've improved my credit control. I've saved myself money. It's not just time; it's the other benefits. So that's level. That's level 2. Okay, and then there's kind of the third level of kind of value, and that's where you can provide business differentiation. Yeah. So kind of back to our kind of the application we had online, towards kind of the end of the journey, where we'd got to with data now in play is that customers could go on and they went to an app and it gave them full advice on, are they overdrawn? What could take out their business? It estimated what their tax was going to be at year end. It gave them planning options. So suddenly we've got something that's fundamentally, differentiating our offering. So differentiation of our offering, that goes to growth, it goes to churn, it goes to business valuation. And again, when we came to the kind of the exit, if you remember that, the kind of the first kind of private equity kind of, they were excited about the portal and the feed. When we kind of sold Brooks, and what they were excited about was that kind of automation, the level of data. That is what is data, and then back to your question about how that then kind of comes into play. A business can think, well, data can actually start to automate where that Excel-based process where I'm going to start to bring information in from all my businesses kind of worldwide. I'm syncing in Excel spreadsheets every time I buy a business, I'm putting in a new finance layer because, I want to buy a business. I want to get synergies. I want to make, but no, that's not what happens. I buy a business. I've now got to consolidate that global. So my global finance is building and building and building. Okay. So data can help with that automation that I put, that's not just about saving time for a global business. That's critical for survival. Often it's critical for your customer experience. You need to be telling a global customer what's going on in all their different countries. And if you're able to do that, that goes to core differentiation. So, that's the power of data in that kind of global sense. And then, a kind of big learn from me, and I think this is kind of critical. And I've seen this. So, in a global business, you're kind of buying up kind of subsidiaries over the world. The kind of instinct is, we need a joined up business. Okay, so how are we going to join up the business? The instinct would be, and I think this is kind of really common, we need to get everybody onto one single platform.
Yeah, the mythical quest.
Yeah, the mythical quest. So, okay, fine, that's going to cost you, maybe kind of 10 years and 10 million pounds. Yeah. It's not feasible.
Gazillion. Yeah,
it's not feasible. And you know what? We've all got, you're growing the business, things are going on, it's sometimes not the priority just to, kind of, build away the backbone. So,
and the nuances as well. Each country's specifics. You bought the business because it excelled in a certain country, in a certain region. It'll have certain nuances. And you run the risk of throwing away some of that benefit as well by trying to consolidate them in what has to ultimately become a really vanilla platform where data allows you to keep that specialism, but actually analyze it over here separately.
So if you ask what does joined up business mean? What does a global, actually you're talking about visibility. A lot of it, yes, sometimes you kind of share, data and you have to kind of interact kind of operationally, but in the main, our problem of global business is one of a kind of read capability. I need to see what's going on, and you don't need to take out your put everybody on the same platform. And often it's not feasible because let's take payroll for instance. You have to have payroll systems in each country because it's so nuanced, it's so specialized. So how do you join up kind of payroll and all those kind of businesses? How am I going to be a joined up provider? Well, you use data to be that fabric.
Yeah. And I think I don't think many people naturally think that way. The first assumption is let's build a portal and standardize everything. Let's find one system, pick that system and do that. And I think that's why we felt this is such a great conversation to talk about today. And I'm sure we'll touch on it again a bit more. I just want to bring you back to something. And this pivots slightly maybe into an unusual subject, but you referred to a citizen strategy before.
Yes.
And when we're speaking to business leaders, business owners all around the world, there's a common theme when thinking about employees that the world's just got so much more competitive, and improving your brand value proposition, your employer brand value, is now really at the forefront of everyone's minds. The citizen approach, if I understand it correctly, is actually saying, as well as giving you a job in, let's say, accounting or operations, we're going to train you in advanced data and analytics tools and actually give you real resellable value that you can use in your career as well.
Yeah, it's that, but effectively you're giving them superpowers.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that makes them extremely valuable in their current business and future career as well.
But it gets them excited about their jobs. You find the right individual. You give them these new technologies, you give them the training, they get super excited about their job. They just they were great. The chances are these people were great before, but you're now giving them superpowers and they love it. So they will go home at the weekend sometimes and do kind of data stuff if they're really starting to kind of ignite their kind of the passion, and they'll start to do great things. And suddenly, somebody that feels okay, payroll, isn't the most, my role in payroll isn't that exciting, but suddenly, you're doing automation in payroll, you're doing data and kind of payroll, and it becomes fantastically exciting. They get kind of real passion and they drive forward. So it creates, kind of stickier, stickier kind of individuals. And the reason it is so powerful, and we've, I think we've always shared this philosophy is, the real kind of value is those knowledge workers. So people that understand the business, you can't have, expertise come in to get that, that is the hardest thing. Somebody with 10 years experience in the business, that's
understanding the specifics of the business, then empowering them to understand the data is the right way to go.
And it's a blend. So you need some experts in there to kind of help and guide. And there's, some things you need to do in a traditional data way. But the real catalyst for transformation, the catalyst for innovation is the empowerment of those kind of knowledge workers. And if you're a global business and you've got, those kind of superstars in each of the areas, and they're kind of, empowered, or, somebody really strong in finance with this side of things. The phrase I always say, another phrase is, if I take a traditional data developer, okay, and I've got, and again, typical global problem. We've got a finance problem. We need to kind of bring it all together, don't we? Okay. So, how do I kind of solve that problem? I cannot take a traditional data developer who understands SQL and who is brilliant at what they do. I cannot get them to have 10 years worth of accountancy expertise. Okay. Now I can take an accountant and give them 10 years worth of data expertise, in a year.
I think that's a really, really exciting lens. So not only can data and analytics potentially be a quicker strategic option, it potentially is a more costly way of doing it than large scale projects, which we've all been in charge of, where we've spent far too much on portals and systems trying to unify. It actually develops a really strong employer brand proposition. Yeah,
and do you know what? I can feel the outrage from data people coming across there. So let me kind of talk there a bit. That so this kind of brilliant kind of traditional data developer. If you look at what they're used for now, probably 80% of what they're doing is maybe the kind of the basic kind of data shaping, kind of blending. They're doing a lot of that to create data sets. Now it's that kind of stuff that you should give the citizens to do to be out of the business. They should be, specializing in the more kind of complicated stuff. The things that, yes, you cannot get a citizen, even with that technology, to do some of the things that a data engineer can do. But let's get them focused on, the really kind of optimized, critical, long-term view, while you've got this kind of going on. So it's a blend. It's symbiotic. I mean, that's quite a hard thing to marry in an organization, because traditional data people might see that as a threat. They shouldn't, if they understand the strategy.
To the challenge everybody's got with AI at the moment. Using where to implement AI and where to allow that to accentuate your skills to the real valuable things that only you can do. Yeah. So, and,
I think the typical, data project is, people get to a stage and we've got to, okay, we want to be good at data. We want to kind of solve that problem. So what will happen? They'll go out, recruit kind of data engineers, and they'll start this kind of project. The data engineers will come in with, the strategic aim to build this enterprise, big and beautiful solution. So, this is going to take 2 years to do. Okay, so great. Everybody's really excited. We're kind of on with doing data. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so it gets to, kind of 2 years, okay, so where are we up to? Oh, well, we're doing well. We've laid this and all this kind of technical stuff. Okay, can I see anything? It's okay. Well, no, it's all technical and we're not in that position yet. Okay, that's fine. Well, we're really excited about data. We get 6 months. Okay, I'm now getting a little bit nervous. I've spent, hundreds of thousands of pounds and I've not actually seen anything kind of during this process. Well, it's more kind of complicated. Okay, 2.5 years, we see something. I get a report, I give it to the accountant. The accountant's got their Excel-based process. They've got their information. They see what's coming out of the data warehouse and stuff. It doesn't marry up. That's rubbish. We're not going to use it. They throw it away. 2.5 years gone. Lots of people are going to get a sack and spend loads of money. So, now, that they are doing the right kind of long-term strategy, but you can't have a strategy that doesn't give you results and doesn't involve the knowledge workers. So my view and the correct way to kind of start this kind of journey, and this has come from, wins and failures along the way, this, so, some things that haven't gone kind of well, but, I've had enough wins that people have, allowed you to keep going. So, this comes from, kind of losses as well as wins. But, I think if you're starting out, you need to start out actually in this knowledge worker led, kind of no code, high velocity. So, the experience we had at Brookson is we started to do this, and we started then to get kind of wins out into the business. So after a month of doing this, we had our first use case, and we had our, and then, wow, great. Okay. So we've got all these kind of use cases going on with, data, real value straight away, business, executives, everybody's loving it. It's going great. More people are getting involved. So real momentum, and we're kind of solving the problems. Now, I know that, okay, so, that's going on. I've then started to kind of give myself a problem. Okay, so I've now got more and more of the business being run by kind of algorithms and workflows. So I need to think about governance. I've got now maybe a knowledge worker that's running something on the kind of the desktop. So as a CIO, hold on, I've got to think about a way to govern this structure. We've got different versions coming on. I need a way to control that, and that's I've got all the kind of the backing and the win and the ROI from, this strategy. First of all, I could take some of that, and I said, listen, you're not going to see the benefit of this, but I'm going to go away and invest some of that win in that more traditional approach.
Yeah.
So, we start to back build some of those kind of workflows into a more kind of traditional kind of data warehouse. But now, the people doing my data warehouse strategy, they've got the scope to go on, spend their time, do it right, because, results are coming through this kind of high velocity. Yeah. And then, the way it then joins up with the kind of the knowledge worker, because, the accountant has built their workflow in the data tool. Okay. They're running the optimum. Okay. They now pass that back as a scope to the traditional data developers. So that's how you've bridged the world between, the knowledge worker and traditional data. Is actually the knowledge worker builds something in kind of no code tools. They're happy with it. You've got adoption. They're getting the results after, a few months. You give it back to the data developers, and they build it in the beautiful optimized enterprise way. The concepts, kind of Gartner bimodal. Yeah. So, you're running at two speeds. You've got, kind of very creative, kind of fast moving, fail fast, experimental going on, so, you can afford to kind of fail because it's so cheap and it's so kind of fast.
Yeah.
So you've got that going on, and then you've got your other world, which is kind of optimized, lockdown, kind of high governance.
Yeah.
So your innovation is always going to stay in your mode one. If you want to get AI going and that stuff, do it in the innovation. But to kind of kick out your financial reports and your group reporting, that might start. If you don't have any capability in the experimental, but you quickly want to get that into highly governed and locked down.
I guess let me try and summarize the conversation today. And if I miss anything, please interject. What a wonderful insight. First, it's quite nice to hear the story. It's actually nice to hear the story, even though I was part of some of it, to hear it sort of from a different perspective. So, data and analytical tools can be an integral part of a global business strategy. Empowering citizens, so key members of staff, with these tools can make them superheroes, and that helps your employer value proposition, helps their individual careers, but most importantly, increases velocity of change within the business. And actually, this can be a completely different strategic angle than trying to find one mythical global system that can do everything for you. Data shaping and analytics is actually a way of us achieving global expansion through a really different strategy. Have I got that there?
Spot on.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure. I could talk to you for hours, and the passion and energy you have definitely comes across. And we all wish you the best of luck with Fourth Revolution Analytics as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you very much.